Devolution of power, top priority of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government. Prime Minister Imran Khan stresses on importance of devolution of power. Imran says most important agenda of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government is to delegate power to local governments. Prime Minister directs formation of joint investigation team to probe burning of Lahore Development Authority record and Plaza fire. Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry terms cancellation of Pakistan-India Foreign Ministers meeting unfortunate. Chaudhry asked India not to drag Pakistan into its internal politics. Minister warns India cannot develop by weakening Pakistan. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi arrives in Washington before departing for United Nations General Assembly session in New York. Qureshi is also expected to meet U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo during his official trip to United States. Britain's opposition Labour Party Corbyn says prefers elections to second Brexit referendum. British Brexit Secretary Dominic described new election suggestions as being for the birds. Irish government make emergency plan for the potential Brexit with no deal. Ireland's Agriculture, Food and the Marine Ministers Michel Creed says priority of Brexit negotiation is to solve issue of Irish border. Israel sets October deadline to evacuate Borden village in West Bank. Israel plans to demolish village and relocate its 180 residents to a site 12 km away. Palestinians says demolition is part of Israel push to cut off East Jerusalem from the West Bank. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani says group behind military parade attack financed by United States-backed Gulf states. Rouhani calls US a bully that wants to create insecurity in Islamic Republic. Survivor pulled from capsized Tanzanian ferry as death toll reached at least 218. Navy divers resume search inside sunken Navy after hearing sounds of man. Bollywood actors promote their upcoming horror film in Mumbai. Film features veteran actors like Vijay Raj and Javed Jafri. Good evening, you are watching 92 News and my name is Mohammad Ahmed Rana. After headlines, it's time for the details. And top story is Prime Minister Imran Khan on Sunday directed to form joint investigation team to probe into fire at a plaza in which the record of Lahore Development Authority burnt. Khan stressed on the importance of devolution of power during a meeting and Prime Minister ordering the order of mega projects directed the ministers to work for 7 days a week. More in this report.
While chairing a high-level meeting in Lahore, Prime Minister Imran Khan decided to form JIT over the blaze in Plaza, which resulted complete damage to LDA record. Khan issued instructions to the Punjab government in this regard. The meeting was attended by Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry, Punjab Governor Chaudhry Sarwar, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Governor Shah Farman, and other senior party members. While reviewing a new local bodies system drafted by the federal government, Prime Minister Imran said the government wants to truly empower citizens. The most important agenda of the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government is to delegate power to the local government, the Prime Minister said. Talking to the participants of meeting, Prime Minister said the people of Pakistan have a lot of expectations from incumbent government, adding that people should know how much loans were borrowed by previous governments and how much interest is country paying against these debts. Khan directed the ministers to monitor the performances of their respective departments, ordered audit of all mega projects and to finalize the draft of local body system within 48 hours. Prime Minister was also briefed over the development in government's 100-day plan, which was proposed prior to general elections. The Premier also met Punjab Chief Minister Usman Bustar and local government Minister Aleem Khan.
Federal Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry said that the cancellation of Pakistan-India Foreign Minister meeting is unfortunate. Although the future strategy, India has to prepare itself in terms of bilateral relations. Chaudhry urged India not to drag Pakistan into its internal politics. He warned that India cannot develop by weakening Pakistan. Talking about local body system, the minister said present system does not fulfill the basic requirement of constitution, adding that it's time to replace this system. Here is what he said.
भारत में ये सोच पाई जाती है कि पाकिस्तान को कमजोर करके वो आगे बढ़ सकता है, लेकिन अगर आप दुनिया को उठा के देखें तो रीजन्स ऊपर जाती है। और ये हमारे आर्मी चीफ ने बड़ी वाज़ेह तौर के ऊपर पहले भी बात की थी कि रीजन्स ऊपर जाती है। अगर हिंदुस्तान इस खुशफहमी में है कि वो ऊपर चला जाएगा, बाकी पूरी रीजन पीछे रह जाएगी, तो ऐसे तो नहीं होना। हमने अमन की बात की है और उनका इस वक्त जो मसला है वो ये है कि वो एक अंदरूनी स्कैंडल में, जैसे हमारा नवाज शरीफ साहब पैनामा के स्कैंडल में फंस गए थे, नरेंद्र मोदी साहब इस वक्त राफेल स्कैंडल में फंस गए हैं। अगर आप यही हालात देखें तो तकरीबन 7 ट्रिलियन रुपया, 70,000 करोड़ रुपया अब तक पीपल्स पार्टी के 2 वज़ीर आला कायम अली शाह और मुराद अली शाह खर्च कर चुके हैं। और कराची की हालत आपके सामने है, वहाँ पे अंदरूनी सिंध की हालत आपके सामने है। तो जब तक इस निज़ाम को तब्दील ना किया जाए, मामला आगे बढ़ना नहीं है। कौम का पैसा है, वो कौम का पैसा वापस ले आए, हमें पैसे वापस कर दें, पाकिस्तान के लोगों का पैसा है वापस कर दें, हमारी लड़ाई खत्म हो जाएगी।
Pakistan Minister of Foreign Affairs Shah Mahmood Qureshi arrived in Washington Saturday night for a day-long stay before departing for the United Nations General Assembly session at its New York headquarters. Qureshi is expected to visit his American counterpart, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, during his official trip to the United States.
इस तरह इनकार का उन्हें जवाब तलाश करने पड़े, एक मौका था जो मैं समझता हूँ कि हिंदुस्तान के अंदरूनी हालात ने इजाजत नहीं दी।
Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has arrived in Washington ahead of the United Nations General Assembly session at its New York headquarters. Qureshi is expected to visit his American counterpart, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, during his official trip. During his 24-hour long stop in DC, Qureshi is scheduled to visit Pakistan's embassy in Washington, where he would be meeting members of the business community as well as journalists. The foreign minister will be heading for New York to attend the UN General Assembly's 73rd session, which opened on September 18 on Monday, where he would be heading the Pakistan delegation. Qureshi will address General Assembly on September 29. Qureshi is slated to present Pakistan's stance on various issues, including the Kashmir conflict at the UNGA session. He would also meet his counterpart at the session and hold talks with the US administration. In addition to this, Qureshi is also expected to visit his American counterpart, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Indian Minister of External Affairs Sushma Swaraj will also address the General Assembly session on the same day. The meeting between Qureshi and Swaraj was scheduled and confirmed by Indian Ministry of External Affairs, but that decision was reverted by Indian government just a day later. Qureshi had flown out to the US on Friday, accompanied by Foreign Secretary Tahmina Janjoa for a week-long visit to the UN headquarters.
First Lady Bushra Bibi on Sunday visited old age home and met helpless senior citizen. She was accompanied by Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leader Farah Khan. According to detailed Prime Minister Imran Khan's wife, Bushra Bibi continued social activities during her visit to Lahore, where she visited the senior citizen at old age home and helpless children at Social Welfare Department. Deputy Director of Social Welfare Department Khushnood Jameel welcomed the First Lady on her arrival. Bushra Bibi and Farah Khan spent some time with children and women. And now Britain's opposition Labour Party prefers a new election to a second referendum on Brexit. Its leader said, heaping pressure on Prime Minister Theresa May, whose plans for a divorce deal with the European Union have hit an impasse.
Speaking on the BBC's Andrew Marr show, Labour's Jeremy Corbyn said that while he would listen to the debate about any possible second vote on Britain's membership, he preferred a snap election if May failed to get a deal that Labour could support in the Parliament.
This government doesn't seem very strong. It is looking in two directions at the same time. On the one hand, a trade deal with the USA, on the other hand, some kind of relationship with Europe. And we could well be looking towards a general election. And do you know what? We're ready for it. Our preference would be for a general election, and we can then negotiate our future relationships with Europe. But let's see what comes out of conference.
Britain is to exit the EU in March next year, after weeks of both sides making positive indication about prospects of clinching a divorce deal and a future trading relationship. The mood music turned sour on September 20 in Salzburg, Austria, when the bloc's leader, one by one, came out to criticize May's Chequers plans. Speaking on the same show, British Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab repeated May's vow to hold her nerve in the talks, pressing the EU to come up with an alternative proposal to her Chequer plan, named after the country residence, where a deal was hashed out with her top ministers in July.
Well, I think that's not the kind of language of either statesmanship or friendship, particularly at a summit. If someone wants to point out something that I've said which is a lie, feel free to do so, but I don't accept that.
Raab again ruled out any new election later this year, describing the suggestion as being for the birds. He said Britain would not flit from plan to plan like some sort of diplomatic butterfly.
The Irish government has made emergency plans for the potential Brexit with no deal, with Irish companies broadening international markets to reduce the impact. More in this report.
Kevin Connolly owns a farm and most of his beefs are exported to the UK market, which makes him worried is the impact of Brexit.
Ultimately, if the price through increased tariffs causes it to be too expensive for the UK housewife, the UK consumer to buy, that might allow other competitors to come in and push Irish beef off shelves.
UK is the largest export market of Irish agricultural products. The total volume of Ireland's exports to UK reaches €5 billion every year, up to half of the country's export. The final agreement between UK and EU will have a significant impact on Irish agricultural products.
We in ABP have strategic plans in place for the various potential outcomes, whether that be a hard Brexit or a soft Brexit, where we have strategic plans for all of that. But with markets like China coming on stream, it is a massive help to reduce the risk of the impact of Brexit on the Irish beef industry and the Irish farmers.
In response to the impact, some Irish companies are strengthening trade cooperation with other countries so as to have a diversified markets.
I think the next number of weeks are going to be critical in these negotiations. We prepare for a crash out of the European Union by the United Kingdom, but we hope for a better arrangement. When they leave, no matter how good the negotiations are and how good the outcome is, it will not be as good as what we currently enjoy.
Michael Creed, Minister for Agriculture, Food and Marine of Ireland, stressed that the priority of the Brexit negotiations is to solve the issue of the Irish border. He said the Irish government has fully prepared for personnel enrolment and technology, upgrading for airports and ports to cope with the changes in Ireland's import and export after Brexit.
Another gory incident in London as a 19-year-old youth was shot dead in British capital's Walthamstow area late Saturday night. According to details, media reports the youth was shot at late night when he was out on streets with his friends. Announcing post-mortem of the youth's body, police have started collecting evidences from the site of incident. However, no arrest has been made so far. On the other hand, family members of the deceased have been informed about the incident. The recent incident takes the number of murders in the British capital this year to 108. A new documentary made on Britain's royal family has taken the lid off Duchess of Sussex Meghan Markle's wedding dresses. The documentary shows Meghan Markle, the former American actress who has recently become part of Britain's royal family, had sewn even those pieces of cloth into her wedding dresses which were very close to her heart. For example, pieces of the dress which Meghan had worn at her first meeting with Prince Harry were also part of her wedding dresses. Similarly, the flowers designed on her dress represented the Commonwealth countries. It's time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back after the break, and now Israel told residents of Khan al-Ahmar, a Bedouin village in the occupied West Bank, slated for demolition, to clear their houses by October 1st.
Israeli security forces handed out letters telling residents to voluntarily take down the buildings, warning Israeli authorities would enforce the demolition orders after the deadline. Khan al-Ahmar consists of tin and wood shacks built on desert hillside beside an Israeli highway that runs from Jerusalem to Dead Sea. Israel plans to demolish the village and relocate its 180 residents, Bedouins who scrap a living by raising sheep and goats, to a site 12 kilometers away. The move has drawn criticism from Palestinians and some European states, who cite the impact on the community and prospects for peace. Palestinians say the demolition is part of an Israeli push to create an arc of settlement that would effectively cut off East Jerusalem from the West Bank, territories Israeli captured in the 1967 Middle East War and which the Palestinians seek for an independent state.
Iranian President Hassan Rouhani accused US-backed Gulf Arab states of providing financial and military support for anti-government ethnic Arab groups in Iran behind Saturday's attack on a military parade in the city of Ahvaz, in which 25 people are died.
Speaking before leaving Tehran to attend the annual UN General Assembly in New York, Rouhani said Iran was ready to confront the United States and its Gulf Arab allies and called the US a bully that wants to create insecurity in the Islamic Republic. Saturday's assault, which wounded at least 70 people, targeted a viewing stand where Iranian officials had gathered to watch an annual event marking the start of the Islamic Republic's 1980-88 war with neighboring Iraq.
Divers rescued a man from the wreckage of an overcrowded Tanzanian ferry 2 days after it capsized on Lake Victoria, killing at least 218 people. More in this report.
Navy divers resumed their search inside the sunken MV Nairi after hearing sounds that suggested signs of life. They pulled one man out of the overturned ship and he was rushed to hospital. His condition was not immediately known. Bodies continued to float to the surface around the vessel, which initial estimates suggested had been carrying more than 300 people. The ferry sank on Thursday evening, just a few meters from the dock on Yukarev, the biggest island.
Thousands demonstrated in the Swiss capital of Bern, demanding equal pay for women and protesting against discrimination. More in this report.
The rally comes ahead of a parliament debate on reinforcing control of gender pay gap in companies hiring more than 100 employees. Responding to the call of more than 40 organizations and unions, protesters marched down the capital's streets and gathered at Federal Square, chanting and holding placards with signs reading, "Any work deserves equal salary," and "When I am a grown-up, I will have a man's salary." The new equal pay legislation, if passed, will require every organization with over 100 employees to carry out pay analysis every 4 years to ensure there is no discrimination between the salaries of men and women.
Animal rights activists from the French group Bushra Abolition held flash protests in front of butcher shops across several French cities, including Paris. More in this report.
activist Alize Dennis held the carcass of a dead piglet in her arms in silent protest, wearing a t-shirt that read "Butchery is not a profession" in front of one butcher shop in the capital. Her protest was met with anger and derision by the shop owner and some of his customers. Many other store owners ignored the protest, including award-winning butcher Roman Loboif, who labelled it insulting. The flash protest came on the same day as the Veggie Pride March in Place de la République, where hundreds of vegans and activists tried to raise awareness about animal rights. The rally also provided a platform for vegans to share meals and promote an end to the exploitation of animals.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the world's biggest healthcare program aiming to provide free health service to about 500 million poor people, which could boost his chances in national election early next year.
The scheme, which the government dubs Modi Care, will provide 100 million families, or about 500 million poor people, with health cover of 500,000 rupees per year for free treatment of serious ailments. The measures are Modi's latest attempt to reform a public health system that faces a shortage of hospitals and doctors. The government has also in recent years capped prices of critical drugs and medical devices and increased health funding. The plan will be initially rolled out in 27 states, where the federal government will bear 60% of the costs and 40% would be borne by state governments.
It's time for a short break. Stay with us. The old town of Taizong district in East China, Shandong province has brightened its streets and avenues with lanterns to celebrate the traditional Midautumn festival, which falls on 24th of September this year.
Tens of thousands of lanterns and lights, which combine traditional and modern elements, created a strong festive atmosphere, including flowers, moon and music. The Mid-Autumn Festival is one of the most important festivals in China, which is celebrated each year on the 15th day of the 8th month on the lunar calendar when the moon is full. Traditionally, it's a time for family reunion, and family members and relatives enjoy mooncakes together.
Cast and crew of upcoming Bollywood horror thriller Leopard launched a song of the movie at a promotional event in India's showbiz capital, Mumbai.
Looped, written and directed by Prabhuraj, tells a tale of a family which find themselves in a spooky situation during on the way to their vacation.
It is something that just gets the gist of Bhoot, the thriller, the horror, all of those elements kind of rolled into one. So it is going to be quite exciting, I think.
Bollywood actress Urmila Matondkar said that the movie had the elements of one of her previous hit horror movies, Bhoot, like thrill and horror. The song launched at the event is a remake of one of the songs from Bhoot. The film features veteran actors like Vijay Ras and Javed Jaffrey. The film is slated to hit the theatres on October 5.